So now we will be discussing about the calculation involved in identifying the optimal production plan, which is also known as limiting factor analysis, how we can exploit our bottleneck and how we can maximize our throughput in a way by setting up the production schedule of the products in ranking as per the throughput per bottleneck resource. So first of all, I will tell you the steps step by step how we actually get to the optimal production plan, and then we will refer to the same example which will help us to actually calculate the optimal production plan, which effectively means how many units of each product we should be producing in order to maximize our throughput. So let's first of all discuss about the steps that we need to perform, and then we will refer to this example as well. So talking about the steps involved here, first of all, as we said earlier, that we need to identify the bottleneck. So first of all, we have to identify the bottleneck. As we said, there could be more than one processes involved in making the product. And which of those processes is our bottleneck? This is what we have to identify. Once you have identified, then you can actually perform the calculation of the optimal production plan. So once you have identified the optimal production plan, then effectively your steps will start, which would first of all be to calculate the throughput of each product per unit. And then once you have calculated the throughput per unit, after that you will calculate throughput per unit of bottleneck resource. So let's say one of the machines is a bottleneck. So we'll effectively be calculating throughput per machine hour, you can say. So in the first step, we actually calculated throughput per unit, and then we calculated throughput per machine hour, because for us, the limiting factor is machine process time. So we need to maximize our throughput with respect to that particular machine or process. So that's why the ranking would actually be based on throughput per machine hour, not per unit. Okay. Once the ranking is done, it would then lead us to our optimal production plan, which is how many units of each product we should effectively be producing to be able to maximize our throughput. And based on that optimal production plan, we can also calculate our amount of profitability. So the profit statement could be that we first calculate our sales, then we will subtract our direct material cost to effectively arrive at the throughput, and then if we will subtract the fixed cost from, which is the operating cost or factory cost, we will effectively be able to arrive at the profit, and this is what we want to maximize. Okay, so let's refer to this example which I have taken from the technical article, and let's apply these steps. The bottleneck has already been identified, so we don't have to actually identify the bottleneck over here. But in case more than one processes are given, then you have to identify which one of them is the bottleneck. The one that would generate less output from the available time would be referred to as the bottleneck activity. So let's refer to this example. The first step, as I said earlier, is that we have to calculate the throughput per unit for each product. Throughput is basically, as we discussed earlier, selling price minus direct material cost. So if I will refer to these products, we have E, F, and G, each having a selling price and direct material cost. I will not write again. So the difference between these two would give us the throughput per unit of the product E. Similarly, for F, we will have 40. This is, by the way, per unit. And then we have similarly for product G as well, 45 per unit. Okay. And after calculating the throughput per unit, we would also be doing the next step. Let me just confirm. Yeah, 45 it is. And the next step, as I said, would be to calculate the throughput per machine hour. Since machine hour is our bottleneck, whatever machine it is. So they have already also identified for us the time required in hours to make per unit. This is what we refer to as our bottleneck activity, is different for each product. So looking at the bottleneck time that is required per unit, it turns out that E, F, and G would take this much amount of time respectively, which would then allow me to calculate throughput per hour or per bottleneck resource or per factory hour or per machine hour. So in first case, we will have a throughput per hour of 12 and then 10 and then 15. Now it would effectively mean that we can now rank our products. Ranking is based on the maximum throughput per machine hour or per bottleneck hour. So it should mean that we should first of all allocate our available time, which is 320,000 of the total time available. First of all, it should be allocated to product G, and then we can focus on product E. And then if there is any resource time available for the bottleneck, it would then be allocated to product F. So based on this ranking, we will now move on to the process of optimal production plan, where we will determine how many units of each product we could possibly produce within the available time. So let me note down the ranking, because I will just raise this one and I will just keep the example with me. Okay, let's write it down again. One. So the first rank was product G, and second one was E, and the third one was F. Now, referring to our optimal production plan, what do we have in the optimal production plan? First of all, we need to make product G. So let's see how many units of this product G we could possibly produce within the available time. The total available time, as we discussed earlier, is 320,000 hours of total time available. When we look at the demand for each product, the demand for product G turns out to be 40,000. So if I would go for producing 40,000 units of product G, each taking 3 hours, which means effectively it would consume 120,000 hours of the total available time, leaving us with a total time of 200,000. And then moving on to our product E, which has a maximum demand of 30,000. Each unit effectively consuming 5 hours. So it means that for this one, we would require 150,000 of the total hours, leaving us with only 50,000 hours for referring to our third rank product, which is product F, which has an expected demand level of, if I'm not wrong, 25,000. Now, for this 25,000, the total time required to produce these 25,000 units is actually 100,000, because each unit will take 4 hours. So in total, we would need 100,000 hours for this product, but the availability is only limited to 50,000 hours. So let's see how much of the maximum units we could possibly produce for our product F. So we have a total of 50,000 hours available. Each unit would take 4 hours. It means that we can maximum produce a total of 12,000 and 1,500 units, which would fully utilize the available time. And this is what we will end up achieving. our optimal production plan, that is the number of units of each product, would be 40,000 for G, 30,000 for E, and 12,500 for F. So it means that we will not be able to meet the 100% demand for our product F. This is how it is, and this is only because the total time available was limited, and as a result, we were not able to achieve our demand. Following on, based on this, we can also calculate our total throughput, and hence the profitability could also be calculated. So let's say if I would want to calculate the total throughput from my optimal production plan, what I need to do is, because I already have the throughput per unit and the number of units are also available, so simply I would need to multiply the throughput of each unit with the total number of units we have in the optimal production plan. So for product G, our throughput per unit was 45, and for product E, our throughput was per unit was 60, and for product F, our throughput was 40 per unit. So this would effectively allow us to also calculate our total throughput for each of these units products we have. So 40,000 times 45, 1.8 million. Same is the case with the other one, 30,000 times 60. We have also the similar amount, and 12,500 times 40, we have 500,000. So if we will add these up, we will be able to calculate our total throughput, which would turn out to be 4.1 million. Let me just confirm this one, 500,000 plus 1.8 million for each of the other two. So yes, 4.1 million in total is what we will have. If there is any fixed cost is given, that fixed cost would be subtracted from the 4.1 million to calculate the overall profitability that could be achieved using this optimal production plan. This is what we have. Now we will in the next video we will also discuss about the calculation of throughput accounting ratio, which we haven't yet discussed so far. Throughput accounting ratio is a measure which could be used for decision making. If the throughput accounting ratio is greater than 1, it reflects profitability. If it is less than 1, it reflects loss. So let's discuss about the throughput accounting ratio in our next video. Till that time, take care, stay blessed, stay safe.